Hi, I'm George from NBI Hockey, and welcome back to Winning on Paper. No Brody this week. He's busy doing exams and being an adult. But we do have a very special guest with us today. You guys probably know who he is. He's got 45,000 followers on TikTok. It's a real celebrity in the house today, Michael Bartner. So thank you for coming by.
I don't know if I'd call myself a celebrity. That's a little bit too much of a tire pump, but I'm very happy to be here, ready to talk some hockey.
Definitely the highest followed guest that we've only had two other guests, so there's not a whole lot of competition, but you blow them both out of the water. So congratulations on that. You take first place. So today is the obviously the only real big news this past week has been the Erik Karlsson trade. We kind of speculated about it last week on the podcast, and we theorized Pittsburgh was going to be the place he went, and we were right. So it's the worst kept secret in the NHL the last 2 months, but obviously the Canadians also played a small part in this deal, taking on some salary from the Penguins. So the plan today is basically just to go through each team, what they gave up, what they got back, and kind of talk about the different packages that they got. So we're going to start with the Canadians because they're probably the least significant of the three. But as far as a third team coming into a trade comes, I think they actually played a more significant role than a lot of teams do in these types of deals. They gave up Mike Hoffman and Rem Pitlick. They got back Jeff Petrie, Casey DeSmith, Nathan Laguerre, and a second-round pick from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Michael, what do you think about how the Canadians kind of took advantage of their cap space here, and how do you think they did?
I think it was a pretty great trade when you look at it. Obviously, just getting a second round pick basically for nothing, getting Jeff Petrie. Although there was some controversy with Jeff Petrie's time in Montreal, to get him back at a 25% discount and getting rid of the Hoffman contract and all that stuff. It's one of those facilitating deals. Like, if you have the cap space, you might as well take on some money and get some assets. So it just continues to be Kent Hughes being willing to spend and eat some money in order to get those future assets. So I mean, I really like it for Montreal. I don't think it's like this insane slam dunk like some Canadians fans are hyping it up to be. It's like the 50th overall pick, most likely. Probably not getting a superstar there. But yeah, why not? Their defense core is so young. So if Petrie ends up playing for there, he can just be like a solid veteran presence, only signed for 2 more years. So overall, pretty solid job by Ken Hughes. You really can't be mad.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see if Jeff Petrie is on the team to start the season. I have a feeling either him or Savard gets flipped before the start of the year. I don't think they'll keep both of them. The other interesting part of this is Casey DeSmith, who I don't think people are really giving a lot of light to. I mean, he's had some pretty good numbers the last couple of years, especially for a backup in Pittsburgh. He's kind of been that stable body behind Tristan Jarry, who's had some inconsistencies. And especially with the Canadians tandem right now with Jake Allen and Sam Montembeault, Casey DeSmith might actually be able to emerge as a legitimate goalie there. And I think just kind of giving yourself another shot with a fringe starter kind of thing, which is what Kent Hughes has seemed to want to do in the post Carey Price era so far. He's kind of the most interesting piece of this for me, I think. He's not on a long deal, I don't believe either. I think he's got 2 more years left if I'm reading this correctly on Cap Friendly. So that's not a big commitment either, but he's kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a solid ad. He can give you 905, 910 hockey even on that Montreal Canadiens team, and they're not like spending big money on goaltending or
No.
anything right now. They drafted like four, I think, this year in the draft. They're looking for that homegrown guy, or eventually gonna spend big money or trade big assets in order to get that goalie. So you just need, between Jake Allen, Monty, and DeSmith, you should be able to cobble together at least over 900 goaltending this year. It's a solid three-man tandem. I wouldn't say any of those guys are top 25 in the league, but they're all like around 30 to 50 maybe. Like, they're all good backups, maybe fringe starters. So goaltending, while definitely maybe not a strength for the Canadians next year, it's not going to be that much of a weakness. They'll find someone to emerge.
Yeah, exactly. And they're just kind of eventually you just bet on enough horses, one of them's gonna be okay for you, and that's all I don't think the Canadians are thinking they're gonna push for a playoff spot this year anyway. So I don't
Yeah.
they just kind of need somebody competent that's not gonna allow 5 goals a game.
Yeah, no, he can definitely give it. I think this is just gonna be another, like, 75-point year where the kids play a ton and you have maybe
Yeah.
some veterans like Jeff Petrie mixed in there, and it's just a development year. You still want, like, a top 8 pick. So, yeah, this definitely accomplishes those goals and also gets you an asset. So I'm a pretty big fan of it. I'd give it, like, a A minus A for the Canadians.
There we go. So moving on to the Sharks, obviously, moving out the Erik Karlsson contract, not eating like almost any money on it at all, which I think was a big surprise to a lot of people. But they move out Erik Karlsson, Dylan Hammerluck, who's like a fringe NHL, AHL kind of guy, and a third round pick. In exchange, they get Hoffman, Granlund, Jan Ruda, and a first. Looking at that haul, it kind of shocked me at first, seeing as this is like the reigning Norris Trophy defenseman who dropped 100 points, getting moved for, two cap dumps, Jan Ruda, and a like middle to late first round pick. I don't know how was your initial reaction to it, and then how'd you feel after being able to sit on it for a couple days?
Yeah, I've kind of originally I thought it was like a solid return because they did get a first round pick, but the more I think about it, like they took to like get trading away Granlund should have got like them taking on Granlund alone should have got you maybe a first round pick, definitely like
Yeah,
a second and a third. So like the fact that they were so not willing to retain money, which I understand because Karlsson has 4 years left versus Granlund only has two. I think Ruda just has 1 or 2 years left. So like I can see that from that perspective. But the fact that they took on so much money for next year but didn't retain any to get some more assets, I wasn't shocked by it just because, yeah, Erik Karlsson has 4 years left at $11 million. Just to be
yeah,
able to move that contract was going to be kind of a nightmare. But it does get more disappointing when you realize that Pittsburgh was able to dump basically Granlund on you and only give up a first round pick to get the Norris winner instead as well.
yeah. It really, it. I mean, it sounds like it was an ownership decision, not a like management decision on not eating cap on that, and it was just kind of came down to they didn't want to pay him real dollars to not be on the team.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's just yeah, like a mid 20 early to mid 20s pick most likely for. I mean, to be fair, the East is crazy, so there's a very real chance the Penguins still miss the playoffs, but that's another story. But yeah, I mean, really, like Hoffman's somebody they'll probably just flip at the deadline.
Yeah.
um
Yeah. Give him
yeah,
top 6 minutes,
sure, like
scores 20 goals.
yeah, they'll get like a second or third round pick for him. So you can add that to the value they got back here too. But I really, again, that's going to be a mid to late second or third round pick. Granlund, I don't think they'll be able to move until maybe next trade deadline, if that at all. Jan Ruda I actually really like as a player. I think he's a nice, like, solid third pairing defenseman. He'll be probably playing first line minutes in San Jose next year.
Yeah. With Mario
So
Ferrero.
yeah, we'll see how that goes. But other than that, I mean, it's really they didn't get a prospect back in this deal. They didn't get like a usable roster player on this deal. Yeah, I was just kind of like, it feels kind of similar to the. I felt the same way about it as I felt about the return for Timo Meyer, in the fact that it was just they didn't really get like a home run player back. I think they did better in the Meyer trade than they did here. Um, but it's really just a bunch of guys and just kind of hoping to eventually turn those guys into assets down the road. I don't know what the plan is for the Sharks in the next like 3 or 4 years. Like I don't know what this team's going to look like because they've moved out now two players who were supposed to be like I guess three if you count Brent Burns, who are supposed to be like franchise changing, like core guys, and they really haven't gotten anything back in return yet.
Yeah,
So
I think the plan for them, and this was just another extension of this. I was really disappointed in the Timo Meyer trade just because he was what 25, 26 years old, had like
yeah,
35 goals in like 58 games, and we were like something ridiculous, like
yeah,
45
something
goal
is
pace.
crazy.
But that was just bad management. This I think they just want a fresh start, like Brett Burns last summer. They actually ate like I think a third of it, which was like $2.5 million. But
Yeah,
they traded Brett Burns for like a third round pick. I think they really just want to get that fresh start, basically have all the money off the books, not be retaining that much, and just kind of tank next year for Celebrini. Like just commit to like a 2 year tank. Like it basically scorched earth. You look at that team, it is horrible. Kakinen
oh,
and
it's not good.
Blackwood in goal, Mario Ferreira and Jan Ruda as your 1-2 on defense. So I think they just they had to trade him this offseason. We were already into August. Like, if
Yeah,
you waited and Karlsson started out, like, 12 points in his first 27 games, like, he
yeah,
has no value again. Like, so, like,
yeah,
Greer might have overplayed his hand. He probably should have traded him at the deadline. I think the Leafs were, as Kyle Dubas was offering, like, even more back then. He probably should have overplayed his hand, but the fact that they were just able to dump this contract and still get a first round pick in the
yeah.
moment, obviously hindsight, yeah, should have traded him earlier, but in the moment, I have a problem with it. Yeah, I kind of respect it. They're just tearing it completely down. They're just going to bring in these guys for 1 or 2 year deals that they can flip at the deadline. That's probably going to be their goal and just stink the next 2 years and then rebuild it. They had a good 15-year run with that core, but yeah, it's time to tear it down.
Oh, for sure. Like this is definitely uh time for this team to just rip it down to the studs and start again. Which I mean, they just signed Thomas Hurdle to
Yeah,
a
I was
massive
about to
extension,
mention that. I don't
so
know.
it's
They
kind
could,
of
yeah.
you can't move that now,
No,
can you?
oh, no
Like,
way. No, you probably have to eat like a million or two. But yeah, when they did that, it was kind of the same. Philip Forsberg, I kind of had the same thought because I thought Nashville should have kind of tore it down. Like same
yeah,
thought, like guy late 20s, your team's kind of heading towards a rebuild. He obviously wants 8 years. That was even worse because the writing was so on the wall with San Jose. Like, yeah, you
yeah,
guys are gonna stink soon. You could have got. I mean, they could have got a similar return to Timo Meyer, roughly for
yeah.
Thomas Hurdle, who was only making like $6 million that season, half retained. Yeah, like that's my career. I guess he just wanted to clear, yeah, just clear it. Besides the Thomas Hurdle thing, but I guess
Yeah.
he likes Thomas Hurdle. I don't
It's
know.
just it's interesting that like because kind of like what Montreal did here, for instance. Like, but you see a lot of these third teams come in and eat cap on deadline moves and get picks back or whatever. San Jose can't really do that. They only have one retention spot left because they're retaining on both Burns and Karlsson.
Yeah,
So it's going to be interesting to see if he can weaponize cap space at the deadline in a different way almost, because they're not going to be able to retain anything on anybody. So they're going to have to get creative if they're going to try to get some assets back down the road here. But uh, I'm very interested to see what they do. I mean, I think they got some good players coming up. I mean, I still have hope in William Eklund turning into something great. Obviously, they got Will Smith the draft this year, so there's pieces there. But yeah, I think this is definitely going to be a like 4 or 5 years of this team trying to right the ship, and we'll see how it works out. They're fascinating. I gotta say, like, I'm
yeah.
really intrigued.
Yeah, as much as I don't love the Burns Meyer Carlson trade, it like let's take a time machine back to like the day before the Brett Burns trade. I still think they're in a better spot now than before that when there was
Sure.
still the thought of like they might just be mid for another 2 to 3 years. At
Yeah.
least now they have fully torn it down and they have some vision. Because Greer was weird when he like took the job. He's like, I think we can kind of contend now. That's out the window. Like
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
don't think again with that decor with that goaltending. I think they are heading towards a rebuild. So they are heading in the right direction. Are they managing their assets the best in that rebuild? No, but what it's going to come down to is not the Karlsson trade. It's going to come down to whether they hit on Will Smith,
Yeah.
if they hit on Willie Eklund, if they hit on their top 5 pick next year. Like that's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah.
Like sweating, being like the rebuild's over because they didn't get an extra second round pick in the Erik Karlsson trade. That's ridiculous. But
Yeah.
so
Oh,
yeah,
for sure.
they're heading in the right direction. At least they have a direction, unlike some of the other teams at the bottom of the league. I can at least respect that, even if I don't love the moves that they're making.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, yeah, there's so many teams I mean, team like Vancouver, for instance, who's been kind of in purgatory forever. What San Jose is doing at least is going to be a lot better than that because regardless, even if you don't get anything back good in a trade necessarily, you're helping your draft stock.
Yeah,
And again, this is another draft where there's 2 or 3 kind of home run guys. So even if you don't and necessarily get number one, I think you're still going to get a really good prospect for this team.
yeah.
So
I said on my like post or whatever, like what I call post, like if they didn't have Erik Karlsson last year carrying the offense, I think they are easily had the best odds for Bedard.
oh
It's
yeah,
like obviously draft lottery they could have got screwed, but they probably would have
yeah,
ended up with either Carlson, Fantilli, or Bedard. Like he was like tank. He actively hurt the tank. He
yeah.
carried
Oh,
them
of course, yeah,
like at least like 7 or 8 points out of that bottom three.
yeah. I mean, it's crazy just to think about like the fact that he put up 100 points on that team.
Yeah,
Like there was
yeah. I
nobody
was
else
looking
there.
at before. Yeah, like I think Couture was second at like 69, Hurdle had like 61. Like
Yeah, it's like
there was no, I think, yeah, Barabanov was like their fourth leading scorer at like 47. They had like they're returning like 2 20-goal guys. It's ridiculous. They're gonna be really bad, and I can't wait.
yeah. So let's move on to Carlson's new team here. The Penguins were able to dump out Jeff Petrie, Casey DeSmith, Mikkel Granlund, Jan Ruda, Nathan Laguerre, a first and a second round pick for Erik Karlsson, Rem Pitlick, Dylan Howerlook, and a third round pick. I think this is like a home run for Kyle Dubas. I think. I mean, you move out Jeff Petrie, who was a contract that was anchoring this team. You move out Mikkel Granlund, who was absolutely an anchor on this team. Jan Ruda, who you can easily replace with like the 15 other NHL ready defensemen that the Penguins have in their pipeline. And Jeff Petrie, I mean, you're replacing with Erik Karlsson. So and you move out a first and a second for a third, and it's going to be a high third because it's San Jose's. I think even in 2026, I still think you're getting a decently high third round
Yeah,
pick there.
yeah.
Like, I don't really see anything like other than the fact that you have to live with that Erik Karlsson contract. And I mean, if the Penguins don't win a cup in the next like year and a half, it doesn't matter anyway. I think like Kyle Dubas destroyed this deal easily, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah, I agree. He literally made up like Hextall, I think last summer, signed Ruda,
Yeah.
traded for Petrie, traded for Granlund at deadline. He corrected
Yeah.
every single like the dying mistakes of Hextall. He came in and within like 2 months solved literally all of them. And yeah, I mean, I gave it like an A. The one thing is like maybe in an ideal world, you somehow dump those contracts for a first and a second, then you spend the
Yeah.
money more efficiently on Erik Karlsson. I think that would be like the perfect dream deal if they got a better
Yeah.
player. But I'm sure the deal really only happened because the Sharks wanted to offload Erik Karlsson. But you look at it, yeah, I mean, I love it. I was on this for like months. I kept on saying, like, this is a perfect fit. Like, they're going to stink regardless in 3 to 4 years. It really doesn't matter.
Oh yeah.
Why not just create a 2014 super team? Like our childhoods are like our fucking dream shell teams. Your GM of the Penguins
Oh
and
yeah.
in NHL 14, you trade the house to the Senators. So yeah, it's gonna be really fun. I mean, like I don't love it because I'm an Islanders fan. I don't want the Penguins to be good, and now they look pretty goddamn scary. But
Yeah.
it's gonna be really fun to watch that team. Their defense core is gonna play a lot of defense, but offensively, they're gonna be able to go toe to toe with basically any team in the league.
Yeah. I mean, the power play is gonna be disgusting too. Just like Crosby, Malkin, and Letang and Carlson all in the same unit
Yep.
is scary. I really like my ideal Erik Karlsson landing spot was Edmonton, just because I wanted to see that power play click at like 56% for
Oh
an entire
yeah.
season.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, like that, I just don't think that was ever as in the cards as a lot of people reported it to be.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. I mean, I think Ekholm's actually a better fit in Edmonton because they needed more defensive kind
Yeah,
of guy to
Bouchard's
help out the
gonna
goaltending there.
gonna slide
So,
in and be the offensive power play.
yo, for sure. And I mean, Darnell Nurse is still there, so like the Oilers kind of weren't in a position to make a move like this.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't think like I don't know if the Penguins are going to be like crazy stupid good next year, but they're going to be really fun. And I think that's kind of like you owed Crosby and Malkin an opportunity to be fun one more time.
Yeah,
And yeah,
it's really like, they have, like, a 20-point margin of error for me. It could go, like,
yeah,
horribly,
oh
and I
for
could see
sure.
them being, like, an 85-point team, like, they finally start to regress, or it could click and they could be 105 and be ahead of the Rangers. Like,
Yeah,
I'm obviously don't like the Rangers, but I would it wouldn't shock me. I see Ranger fans, like, clowning, like, all that for a wild card, which they probably would be a wild card if they make the playoffs, but, like,
most likely, yeah.
don't be shocked if the Penguins are better than the Rangers. I could 1000% see that. I think they're kind of more deep team, if anything. But,
Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be really interesting. The Metro, in my opinion, especially after this deal, is probably the best division in hockey.
Oh,
I would
100%.
maybe like, yeah, because like now that Boston completely fell off, I think you got to go with the Metro. So
Yeah.
it's going to be another war. I I hope the Washington Capitals do some like insane thing after this, just to keep on stockpiling. Those two teams that only have like 3 to 4 years left, just stockpile like old ass dudes. That'd be hilarious. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, I mean, the Capitals signed Pacioretty, and I think that's really
Yeah,
interesting. I mean, he's I think he could come in and score 30 goals next year, like
Yeah,
pretty easily if he's healthy, right? So that's kind of the big thing for a lot of these teams, even for the Penguins, right? I mean, Crosby, Malkin, and Karlsson have all had injury problems in the recent history. So, like, things could really go bad there, or everybody could be healthy again and things go really good. I mean, same with the Islanders, too. I mean, like, they've had especially last year, had a ton of injury problems. So, health is kind of the only thing keeping a lot of these teams out of it. But outside of like Philly and maybe Columbus, I think everybody's really got a shot at the playoffs in this division.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, the crazy thing with Pittsburgh's injuries is actually obviously Letang had that stroke; he was out for a while, but
oh yeah,
Malkin and Crosby played all 82 and they still missed. And Karlsson obviously played 82 last year. Not that like a
yeah,
regression of the mean injury wise is going to happen, but like if Evgeny Malkin usually misses 15 games a year, Crosby has had a little bit of injury history. So like that's why I say like if those injuries start to come up, they could, especially Gensel's already missing the first month of the
yeah.
season. Like it could go south very, very quick. But I would say hopefully not, but like I kind of do want it to happen. I understand. So no serious injuries, just week to
Yeah.
week, simple stuff.
Crosby missed a couple weeks at the end of the year or something, like
Yeah,
nobody's gonna miss it.
sprained
But
ankle, sprained ankle.
no, but I've definitely like I mean, obviously growing up watching Crosby, Malkin, and Karlsson, three of my favorite players of the era. Um, Seeing them all together on a team, even after like past their primes, is gonna be really cool. And it sounds like Crosby and Malkin were kind of campaigning for it for a while. And I mean, Karlsson's obviously going to be happy to be, being able to play meaningful hockey.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I like you said, like this team could really go anywhere. They could be they could be third behind you. I don't think they pass New Jersey or Carolina unless something catastrophic happens.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, third place to maybe even like 10th in the East, I think is kind of the the range for this team. And I mean, the
wild.
Atlanta kind of looks different too, because like Tampa Bay might take a step back. Boston's definitely going to take a step back. Florida's interesting. Toronto, I don't think is as good roster wise as they were last
Mhm.
season. The Metro seems to kind of be where it is. I mean, there's like six teams who are all not just
Yeah.
playoff contenders, but I think could go like fairly deep in the playoffs too. And
Yeah,
that's
and even and
like,
and
it's
even
crazy.
Columbus is gonna be much improved, and either
Oh,
even
yeah.
Philly isn't, like, fully in tank mode. Couturier might play this year. They still got
Yeah.
Konechny. Tippett looked really good. Farabee hopefully can bounce back. Like, they're not San Jose,
No. Even
Chicago,
Chicago, I
Anaheim.
think,
Yeah.
is like, yeah, in that kind of group.
They're not that bad. They're in, like, the air they're about as good as Arizona, I'd say.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly worse, but, like, yeah, they're like a 75 point team.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Quickly run down your Metro predictions while we're here. Give it to me. Sneak preview, just off the dome.
Ooh. I'm gonna go Carolina just because they're consistently like a 110-point team. New
Yeah,
Jersey, not that like they're gonna fall off because obviously I think they literally got better this offseason, but I feel like people are a little bit too bullish on New Jersey, even though I kind of said
that's
they
fair.
might win the Stanley Cup. But Carolina, New Jersey. Oh, I just talked about that. I'm gonna go with Pittsburgh. I'm gonna go with Pittsburgh
All
over,
right,
and
there
then
you
I'm
go.
gonna go with the Rangers. Then I'm gonna go with the crazy thing is, like, I think the Capitals would make the playoffs in the Atlantic. I have
Oh
them
yeah,
6th in the Metro. Like, I
oh
really
yeah,
like the Capitals, and I like my Islanders, so I'll go I'll go Islanders 5th, Capitals 6th, Columbus, uh, Philadelphia. What about you?
yeah. I'm pretty well the same boat. I think I might switch the Islanders and Washington. I think there's
Yeah.
enough there. A lot of it depends on what like Pacioretty does coming in. I think he's kind of the X
Yeah.
factor in that whole division,
Mhm.
um, which is funny because he was the X factor in the division last year too. Um,
Yeah. 3 goals, 5
I
games.
mean, but if they can roll out like Ovechkin, Pacioretty all year as like a 1-2 punch,
Yeah.
that's scary. Obviously Rasmus Sandin might improve as well. He had a great post deadline.
Mhm.
Um, they're just kind of too much of a wild card. I might go with I think the Islanders are the safer pick. Just because you have Sorokin and you have a really defensive team that's
Yeah.
going to win a lot of 2-1 games, which has kind of been the mo for that team the last like 5 years. Um, yeah, I'd probably go the Islanders squeaking in as the first wild card, but for the most, and again, you can kind of flip flop the Rangers and Penguins too. I think there's pros and cons to both those teams. Uh, at the the middle of the division, but I'm pretty well in the same boat, which means like neither of us are going to be right, and the
Yeah,
Blue Jackets are going to win the Metro.
I could fully say in a month, like, Rangers 6, Capitals 3, like,
Yeah,
it's literally, like, 6 points, like, separating those right now.
yeah. Oh, for sure.
I have no goddamn clue.
Yeah, I mean the Penguins were 1 point out last year, right? So,
Yeah,
and they're significantly better. I mean, between Karlsson and Riley Smith, who everybody seems to forget is on the Penguins too.
yeah.
Like they're obviously they lost Zucker, but I'd probably take Riley Smith over Jason Zucker
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, like it's gonna be interesting. Like I'm so excited for this year. I just want hockey to start up again.
It's gonna be nuts.
What
We
are we
still
like
have,
80
what,
days
2.
away or something?
Yeah, like,
Something,
about 2
something like
months,
that.
I
Yeah, I
think.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, football's starting up anyway. It's fine. All right. Well, we'll get you out of here, but before you go, let us know where to find you. Plug yourself. Not that you
Alright,
need it, but
TikTok, Instagram, MBeyond Hockey, Twitter, Mike Bartner, and then YouTube, Mike Bartner.
all right.
Was a
There you go. Do you
pleasure.
ever
Thanks
post on the
thanks for
YouTube?
inviting me. Happy to come back.
All right. Yeah, of course. Thanks for coming by again, and I'm very excited to see what happens here. And obviously, great to have you around. So
No
thanks for being here.
problem. Thank you.